Welcome back, 8:21 this morning. We have a very special guest in studio this morning. Astronaut, doctor, engineer, Dr. Mae Jemison is here with us today. She is the first African-American woman in space. She was a NASA astronaut. She's a medical doctor, serving as a medical officer in the Peace Corps. She is also currently leading the 100-year Starship. It's an initiative to assure human space travel to another star possible within the next 100 years, and more as well with this initiative. So Dr. Jemison also continues to inspire the next generation of scientists and engineers as an advocate for science literacy and STEM participation. So again, we are so honored to have you in studio with us today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, I'm really excited about being here.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background, your career. You began studying chemical engineering at Stanford when you were just 16 years old. So STEM, the sciences, technology, engineering, math, that has really played a huge part in your life.
So I remember as a little girl wanting to be a scientist. You know, your kindergarten teacher asked you what do you want to do, and I said I want to be a scientist. And it was really about understanding the world around you. I think sometimes we get confused with science that it's the equations. It's not the equations. It's about understanding the world around you and how things work. So that was my whole piece. And as a little kid, just like every little kid, you know, you love space and dinosaurs, right?
Yeah.
They're both about where we came from.
Right.
In many ways.
I do think that's interesting because it's funny because I was listening to some recent interviews and you mentioned that, you know, when you're a kid, you look at the stars and you like dinosaurs, and you were raised, you know, you're from Chicago. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about how all that, even Star Trek, all played a part in you eventually, you sort of finding your career path.
So many of the things that we see are influenced, you know, are influenced by the folks that we're around. And for me, I was really lucky because I chose my parents well.
Good thing, right?
I did a good job with that. But it was really about them really wanting you to explore the world and tasking you to do things. So that was part of it. In terms of my career choice, I wanted to be a professional dancer. I wanted to be an artist, an architect, and all of those things. But underneath it all, I always wanted to go into the sciences and engineering. And so that's what I did. But you carry all those other things along as well. Star Trek, it was about a hopeful future, which is one of those things that very frequently we don't see in science fiction. And we always have to realize that you're always building ideas up. And so we sort of bring those around. I grew up during the Apollo era, right? So, you know, I assumed we could do all kinds of things.
Right. Sort of shoot for the stars, and I guess further in your case, beyond that. So I do want to ask you about this, the Bear Making Science Make Sense program. You're the chief ambassador of that. You mentioned that when you came in here today. Tell us a little bit about that program and how it's helping with this STEM initiative.
So I was fortunate enough to connect with Bear a number of years ago and to work with him on collaborating about science literacy. So science literacy isn't about everyone becoming a professional scientist. It's about making sure we can read an article in the newspaper and figure out how to vote on it. And the Making Science Make Sense program actually has Bear volunteers working in classrooms with teachers, with students. It also looks at surveys and attitudes about science, and it also promotes ideas around diversity. How do we get more women and minorities into the science and STEM fields so that we have a better perspective? Now, when we talk about STEM, you know, people think four-year degree folks, right? But that's not it. You know, the shuttle was built by people who are technicians, who are not by four-year degrees. You know, they literally had to be science literate. Everyone in the studio has to have a level of science literacy to operate the equipment. So it's really about how do we create a more effective workforce and how do we get more perspectives in so as we start to come up with solutions to all the things we face in the world today, we have opportunities.
I do have to ask you a little bit because we are talking to an astronaut. I just feel like we never get this opportunity. I would love to hear about your perspective. I mean, clearly you are a pioneer, but did your perspective change a little bit after you come back from space? I mean, what is that like to go to space?
So if something didn't happen, I wasn't paying attention, right? So for me, it was really more of a connection, not just with the Earth, but for the universe at large, and feeling that I have every right to be here, right? Sometimes as humans, we sort of feel disaffected from the rest of the universe, but we're a part of it. We are just as much a part of it as a speck of stardust, right? In fact, that's inside of us. And so for me, my perspective was a commitment to make sure that we include all of the people of this planet and the bounty of the planet and be able to move forward and say, we can do more. It really helped me to formulate something that I believe pursuing an extraordinary tomorrow creates a better world today. We have to push ourselves, and then we have to make sure that we connect it to improve life here on Earth.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for being here, Dr. Jemison. It is great to meet you, and it's great to talk to you. We're out of time, unfortunately. I feel like I could talk to you for another, 20, 30 minutes, but thank you again. For more information on STEM education, go to makingsciencemakesense.com. A really important thing for all of us, I think. Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.